Today, we're going to use some powerful climate data to peer into the future of one of the most vulnerable places on Earth, the island nation of Vanuatu. We're going to explore what the science is projecting and, what that actually means for the people who call this incredible place home.
I mean, just look at it. Vanuatu is an archipelago of absolutely stunning natural beauty, where life is so deeply connected to the rhythms of the land and the sea. But here's the thing. The data shows that this very delicate rhythm is being fundamentally disrupted.
So, to get a really clear picture, our explainer today is zooming right in on the nation's central provinces, Malampa and Shifa. This region is basically a microcosm of the challenges and the choices facing coastal communities all over the world.
So this is the big question we're tackling, right? Not in some abstract, far-off terms, but with hard data and clear projections. What does climate change really mean for the rain, for the heat, for the storms, and for the sea itself? Okay, first things first. To understand change, you have to understand what's normal. So what is the regular climate rhythm that has shaped life in Vanuatu for centuries?
The pattern is pretty simple and predictable. You've got a wet season, which also happens to be cyclone season, and that's followed by a cooler, drier period. This two-step dance basically dictates everything, from when you plant your crops to when you go fishing.
Now, layered on top of those seasons is this massive natural climate pattern called ENSO. You've probably heard of its two famous phases, El Niño and La Niña, which can either supercharge or dial back the regular seasons all across the Pacific. And this shows exactly how that works for Vanuatu. During El Niño years, things tend to get drier, and you see fewer cyclones. But during La Niña years, it gets wetter, and that cyclone risk goes up. This is the natural ebb and flow, the pendulum that has defined the climate here for a very long time.
But that natural rhythm is being pushed and pulled by a new force, and the data is crystal clear. The climate in Vanuatu isn't just fluctuating anymore. It's actively, measurably changing.
Let's start with the most direct indicator, heat. Since the pre-industrial era, Vanuatu has already warmed by 0.7 degrees Celsius. Now that might not sound like a whole lot, but in a really sensitive ecosystem, it is a huge shift.
This graph right here shows you that warming perfectly. The blue bars, that's rainfall. They kind of bounce all over the place year to year. But just look at that red line tracking the average temperature since 1950. It's not random. It's a clear, undeniable upward trend.
And the changes go way beyond the air temperature. The ocean itself is changing. The sea is rising faster than the global average, and it's having more frequent heat waves. At the same time, while there are actually fewer cyclones overall, the storms that do form have become much more intense.
So that's what's already happened, but what about the future? Well, the science shows us it's not some single predetermined outcome. It's more like a fork in the road. There's a choice between two very, very different paths.
Scientists model these futures using what they call emissions scenarios. You can just think of them as different storylines for the planet, based on the actions we take. We'll focus on two main ones, a low-emissions future, where the world acts decisively, and a high-emissions future, which is closer to a business-as-usual path.
And by the year 2090, wow, the difference between these paths becomes incredibly stark. In a low-emissions world, Vanuatu sees about another half a degree of warming. On the high-emissions path, that number jumps to 2.7 degrees. And for sea level rise, we're talking about the difference between 42 and 73 centimeters. These are not just numbers. They represent two fundamentally different realities.
For an island nation, the ocean is everything. It's their food source, it's their highway, it's their protection. So let's take a closer look at what these two paths mean for the waters surrounding Vanuatu.
This graph really shows the story over time. On the left, you see the history, but then look at how the projections split. That steeply climbing red area? That represents the high emissions path, leading to a sea level nearly 3/4 of a meter higher by 2090.
But it's not just the height of the water, it's the heat. And the projections for marine heat waves are just shocking. On that high emissions path, by the end of the century, the ocean around Vanuatu could be experiencing severe or even extreme heat wave conditions for 320 to 360 days a year. It's essentially a near-permanent state of heat stress.
This chart makes that alarming projection really easy to see. Each bar is a slice of the future, with the colors showing heat wave intensity. Now look at the bar for 2090, all the way on the right. Under that high emission scenario, it's almost entirely dark red and brown. Those are the severe and extreme categories.
This would be a total transformation of the marine environment.
And this kind of heat puts immense pressure on marine life, especially the vibrant coral reefs. These reefs are not just beautiful, they act as a living seawall, protecting the islands from storm surge, and they support the fisheries that feed the population. They're absolutely crucial.
And finally, let's talk about one of the most immediate, terrifying threats to life in Vanuatu, tropical cyclones. The projections here are a little counterintuitive, but they are incredibly important to understand.
So first, here's the surprising part. The models project that the total number of future cyclones in the region is actually likely to decrease. You can see on this map that the projected change is negative, that blue color, meaning fewer storms overall.
But, and this is a really big but, the science indicates that the storms that do form will be more intense, on average. This plot shows a projected increase in wind speeds for severe cyclones. So the new reality is likely to be fewer, but fiercer storms.
So when you put it all together, the rising temperatures, the rising seas, the stressed oceans, and the fiercer storms, a very clear picture emerges. The future for the people of central Vanuatu is not yet written. It really does hang in the balance, and it's completely dependent on the emissions path that the global community chooses to follow.
You know, this data isn't just about one island nation. It's a story about all of us. It presents an evidence-based choice between two profoundly different futures, and it leaves us with a critical question. Knowing what's at stake, which path will we choose?